Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into a story that is honestly as heartbreaking as it is highly scrutinized. We're talking about the tragic death of 18-year-old Nolan Wells. Now, there is a lot of noise out there right now, so we're going to cut through that and examine the verified facts, the hard data, and the ongoing investigations to understand exactly what we know so far. We are keeping our focus strictly on the structural evidence here, ensuring we approach this case with the respect and objectivity it demands. So, let's start with the central question, the one that's currently gripping not just a local Mississippi community, but literally the entire nation. How did a 4th of July boat trip, something meant to be a fun summer celebration, end in such an unexplained, devastating tragedy? To really grasp the gravity of where things stand right now, we can look to this incredibly powerful quote from Reverend Al Sharpton. Speaking at Nolan's funeral, he said, "He was not on that island by himself. Somebody saw something and knows something." That single sentence perfectly hits the nail on the head. It captures the immense, growing public demand for answers in a case that still has some massive gaps. Part 1. A Nation Seeks Answers. How a Local Tragedy Captured National Attention. Okay, let's zoom out for a second and establish the foundational facts. Nolan Wells was an 18-year-old standout football player at Ocean Springs High School and a rising college sophomore. On July 4th, 2026, he took a trip out to Horn Island, which, for context, is federal land about 10 miles off the Mississippi coast, with 3 white friends. The heartbreaking reality is that Nolan, who was black and the only person of color in his group, was the only one who didn't return home that day. Let's look at the timeline of July 4th, tracing the boat's actual path. We can actually use physical digital footprints to build a very specific timeline of that fateful day. Using hard data obtained by CBS News from the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, we're able to track the exact GPS movements of the vessel. So the boat departs the mainland at 9:56 a.m., and it arrives at Horn Island at 11:14 a.m. Now, according to the family's attorney, Nolan was last seen around 3 p.m. But here's the thing. The GPS data shows the boat leaving the island at 4:31 p.m. without him. This creates a very narrow, highly scrutinized 90-minute window where Nolan essentially vanished. When Nolan failed to return, his mother reported him missing later that night. This triggered a massive multi-agency search. You had the Coast Guard, the Department of Marine Resources, the National Park Service all looking for him. Tragically, that search concluded 2 days later on July 6th when Nolan's body was discovered in the waters off the coast of Horn Island. And that discovery immediately shifted this from a search and rescue into a full-scale death investigation. Which brings us to the phone and GPS data, following the digital breadcrumbs. Now, what's really fascinating here is how a single piece of everyday tech, Nolan's cell phone, became the absolute center of this investigation. Let's look at the sequence of events right after the boat left Horn Island. GPS data shows the boat returned to its original dock at 6:06 p.m. By 7:19 p.m., it was towed overland to a friend's residence in Biloxi. Meanwhile, you have Nolan's mother desperately trying to locate her son. Using a location-sharing app, she tracked his phone directly to that Biloxi residence. She realized his phone had remained on the vessel the entire time it was towed back. And this specific detail naturally brings up the core mystery that has absolutely tormented Nolan's parents and really fueled the public's search for answers. Why would an 18-year-old supposedly choose to stay behind on a remote island 10 miles from the nearest shore without his phone? This brilliantly illustrates the 2 distinct perspectives that we have to hold neutrally to understand where the investigation is at. On one hand, we have the family's completely understandable concern. His mother called it highly improbable that he would voluntarily leave his phone behind, and the family has raised serious alarms about allegedly deleted Snapchat messages. But then, on the other hand, you have the practical context of boating culture offered by the friends. They stated that multiple phones were actually left on the boat to avoid water damage while they were swimming. And honestly, that is a common practice, especially out on an island that has virtually zero cell service anyway. Section 4. Fact-checking the rumors. Separating data from social media speculation. Because this case has just exploded online, we need to systematically fact-check the viral speculation that's out there. First, let's address a huge rumor head-on. An image started circulating online claiming to show Nolan at a land-based pool party on July 5th, the day after he went missing. But verified interviews with his close friend Trayston Shepard confirmed that this photo was actually taken at a pool party back in June. It really just highlights how fast internet sleuths can spread totally debunked information.
A second massive rumor revolved around a viral video clip from the boat where someone can be heard yelling about their phone and demanding to get off the vessel. Lots of people online claimed this was Nolan in some sort of altercation. But again, let's look at the verified facts. Trayston Shepard publicly confirmed to the press that it was actually his own voice yelling in that video. Nolan wasn't even in the clip. But while social media certainly fueled a lot of rumors, law enforcement also made a pretty crucial misstep early on. The Jackson County Sheriff initially came out and told the public that no foul play was suspected. The major issue there, he made that statement before a full investigation, before any toxicology reports, and actually before an autopsy was even conducted. You can imagine this early rush to judgment instantly sparked a massive wave of public mistrust. Which leads us to the intervention of civil rights leaders, as high-profile figures demand transparency.
So due to that public mistrust, the inconsistencies, and the undeniable racial dynamics of this case, a black teen going missing while out with white friends, national civil rights figures quickly stepped in to support the family. To understand the sheer scale of this national response, just look at this number, $100,000. That is the reward money currently put forward for information leading to an arrest. It's a powerful tool designed to break through any potential silence from witnesses who are on that island. Several high-profile figures are stepping up to ensure this investigation is thorough and impartial. Media mogul Tyler Perry and Reverend Al Sharpton actually teamed up to fund that $100,000 reward. Former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick stepped in and fully funded an independent autopsy, giving the family a chance to get their own medical answers. And high-profile civil rights attorney Ben Crump is now officially serving as the family's legal representative. Finally, let's look at the investigation's next steps. Where do we go from here? While the speculation continues to swirl online, we really need to focus on the concrete, legal investigative steps happening right now. And make no mistake, this is an incredibly active probe. Because Horn Island is federal land, the FBI is directly assisting local authorities, and they are specifically examining the digital evidence extracted from Nolan's cell phone. The Jackson County District Attorney has called this case a priority and is already preparing to present findings to a grand jury. Meanwhile, the official state toxicology and autopsy results are still pending, and law enforcement confirms they've interviewed around 60 witnesses so far. But the most immediate development is literally happening today. July 22nd, 2026 is a pivotal date for this case. Attorney Ben Crump and the family's legal team are scheduled to release the findings of their independent medical autopsy today at the NAACP National Convention in Chicago. This is a huge deal because it could inject entirely new, medically backed facts right into the center of this narrative. So, we want to leave you with this final thought to consider. In an era where literally every step, every text message, and every GPS coordinate is tracked, how might modern digital forensics be the ultimate key to unlocking what actually happened in those missing 90 minutes? As the autopsy results are unveiled and the phone data is fully parsed, will the cold, hard evidence finally provide the closure that Nolan Wells' family and the nation so desperately seeks? Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and we'll see you next time.